That is pure Argent energy you've just taken into your system. It seems to agree with you.
Playing this was like welcoming home an old friend you haven't seen in years. Welcome back, Doom. Developed by the current team at id Software and published by Bethesda, the new Doom is hands down one of the best games to come out this year and is a strong contender to be my game of the year, bringing back all the fun of old school shooters while adding on a new coat of paint for a more modern design. But while great, I'm hesitant to call it a classic like the original. Why? Well, let me tell you why.
It seems that a hell wave was activated.
Story-wise, this is a continuity reboot like Doom 3. You are the Doom Slayer, a warrior imprisoned by hell who has been freed by the head of the UAC, Samuel Hayden, to stop Olivia Pierce, a researcher who formed a cult in worship to the demons of hell, whose domain the UAC exploited to combat an energy crisis. Now the Doom Slayer is on a rampage, ripping the armies of hell a new asshole as he tries to cut hell off from our universe and stop the UAC from harvesting hell's energy for Earth's safety. Now, there's even more story than that, but the game doesn't really bother bogging you down with it. In an ingenious inversion of the silent protagonist trope in shooters these days, the Doomslayer does what he does and screws what other people have to say. When you're given your first bit of story from Samuel Hayden through a desktop monitor, the Doomslayer just shoves it aside and gets right to killing demons. Or when being given the instructions on how to properly dismantle energy converters, he just smashes them to pieces. But if you really want the full story, there are text and audio logs to flesh out the game's lore, but you really have to go hunting for them, and some are easy to miss. I won't lie, I would have liked a bit more story, but what's there works. The shooting though is the real star of the show, and my god, it does not disappoint. You're constantly running, circle strafing, jumping and blowing shit up, all to some kick-ass metal and rock. There are also melee executions you can pull off like in Brutal Doom, and these can get repetitive, but there's a good variety of them to stop them from ever really getting boring. The levels, while fairly linear, do have some nice open areas that fold back into themselves that complement this style of gameplay, and even the modern design choices don't really hamper it. There are obtainable upgrades for your weapon's different firing modes, perks for the Doomslayer, and improvements to your health, armor, and ammo count. And these all work really well, because the way the difficulty curve is mapped, if you don't go after these upgrades, you're gonna have a hard time. Also, there's something here that did annoy me when I played the Thief reboot, the presence of an objective marker, but unlike in Thief, this isn't constantly telling you where to go, and it's real easy to ignore. However, something that can't be turned off is the platforming. Doom brings back first-person platforming, but thankfully, it's not a bitch to control. You're given a double jump that makes it really useful to navigate the more open areas of the level, and it can help make you feel like a total badass at times. When you're running towards a ledge, you jump off, look down, and fire a rocket onto an imp's head, and then land on his bloody smear and keep running around making hell your bitch. But it's also used to justify some instant death platforming puzzles. The ledge grabbing does work, but there can be some instances where it just doesn't, and that's when the platforming can be a real nuisance. There are also these secrets called Rune challenges. They're basically hidden gauntlet challenges that will reward you with special perks. They're a nice distraction to keep an eye out for, but some of these can be brutally difficult and just may cause you to just give up trying to even attempt them. But they can be a lot of fun too, and while they are very trial and error, they can be worth it in the end. Now, I should have pointed this out earlier, but this review is based on the PS4 version of the game, and it's worth noting that this version does have some minor technical faults, mainly the frame rate and screen tearing. But the screen tearing is very minimal and doesn't really distract, unlike in Red Faction Armageddon on the 360, and there are a few times where the frame rate did dip into single digits, but these were extremely rare and brief enough that they didn't really hurt the experience. Now that's all said, let's talk about Snap Map. The Snap Map feature is an editor mode that lets you make your own custom multiplayer maps and single player challenges similar to Halo's Forge mode. The game comes bundled with a couple custom maps already, and the tools are really comprehensive, letting you customize the appearance of your maps to an extent and programming events and when they can and can't occur. It can be a little much to take in for a first timer like myself, but the controls are intuitive enough even on a PlayStation 4 controller, and the game comes with tutorials that'll teach you how to best use the editor. And it'll be great to see what people come up with on both the PC and console. I hear one guy has already used it to turn Doom into a MOBA. Now that is awesome. Then there's the competitive multiplayer mode. Now, I heard a lot of bad things about this while it was in beta, but what's here is fine. It was developed separately by a different group of people who have worked on the multiplayer for Halo and Call of Duty, and they did a decent job, but really, it just doesn't hold a candle to the single player campaign. One reason is that the matchmaking is just terrible. Now, I live in Australia, so the internet here can be pretty shoddy, but there are a number of different modes here, and one I was particularly interested in was Warpath, but I could never connect to a single match in that mode, and all I ended up playing was just team deathmatch and point control, something that was further compounded by my limited internet access. Now, I have also heard from those truly nostalgic for the multiplayer from Doom 3 that giving the players loadouts was a design misstep with the series heritage, but I think the loadouts work fine, and the shitty matchmaking aside, the multiplayer does do things differently enough to really stand on its own, like respawning with a limited perk or being able to turn to a demon from the single player campaign. And what's here has been polished well enough to give it some decent staying power. Now, with all that being said, Doom is a great game, but not an amazing one. While I do see this as one of the best games of the year and a strong contender for my game of the year, I really just can't see it being called a modern classic like The New Order or The Last of Us. Maybe this has to do with the lack of story or the times where it just feels more like Halo, but even then, that's not really a bad thing. I just really don't see that happening. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't get this, because you should. With its awesome single player, cool snap map editor, and alright multiplayer, the new Doom is a great experience. And with the PS4 and Xbox One versions being on par with the PC version, it's a dead set must buy regardless of which version you buy. Seriously, go play this game, you will not regret it. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I liked making it. If you really liked it, how about you like, favorite, and subscribe? And as far as I know, Doom 1 and Doom 2 didn't have multiplayer. I'm not entirely sure about that, so please don't harass me in the comments section about just talking about Doom 3's multiplayer in comparison. Like, I didn't grow up with Doom, not entirely nostalgic, but I played it fairly recently and I loved it. Also, coming out soon, I'll have a review of Angry Birds and Sinister, but for now, how about you just check out some of my other movie reviews or other game reviews, and I'll get those 2 movie reviews out as soon as I can.